What's up, everybody? Bradley with the Insurance Guys podcast here. Before we get started with this episode, I want to talk to you about this week's sponsor. If you pay any attention to the independent agency channel, you know there's no hotter buzzword right now than VAs or virtual assistants. This week's sponsor, I'm proud to say, is CoverDesk, who offers an innovative client solution for agencies to outsource client-facing VAs. Created by agency veteran Andy Priesman, owner of Greenway Insurance. People, this is not your typical VA company. They offer a proven system of recruiting highly educated virtual assistants, ensuring consistent performance for your agency. With their experience, they're able to help you design a program that is just right for you and your agency. They implement by onboarding and training each VA in foundational insurance skills. Visit CoverDesk on the web at www.coverdesk.com or email them at hello@coverdesk.com, or you can call them and tell them that the Insurance Guys sent you. Please do at 512-879-3345. Guys, give CoverDesk a ring. I promise you, you will not regret it.
Insurance agents from around the world, welcome to the Insurance Guys podcast. My name is Scott Howell, your fearless host and leader, insurance agency owner and insurance evangelist for I Protect Insurance and Financial Services, based out of Huntsville, Alabama. And before we get started on today's episode, please help me welcome. He is a 6'3" sophomore from Saraland, Alabama. Parade first team All-American, Rivals 5-star recruit. He is a fantastic insurance agent and a great American. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome the incomparable Mr. Bradley Flowers. How are you, Bradley?
Great, Scott. How are you today?
How excited are you about doing this podcast today?
Very, 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 very excited.
Guys, I want to tell you what we've got for you today. Our mission on this podcast has never changed. Every week, we try to talk about something different, something that you agents out there may or may not have experienced, and we try to give you some things that can help you in your agency. Today's guest on this podcast, this is going to be a very, very good podcast, and it's going to be something that some of you are going to really need to listen to, and I'm going to tell you why. I was a nationwide agent on April 27th, 2011, when we had the worst tornado outbreak in the history of the United States of America. My house was hit by a tornado at 6:30 in the morning. I got out of bed. I threw my son and my wife in a bathtub, and I grabbed a king-size bed off of the actual bed, threw it on them into the bathroom, and, of course, being a guy, I ran to the back door, and as I ran to the back door, there was a tornado going through my backyard and took out two 100-year-old, 200-year-old oak trees as it was going, and I could see the debris flying in it, and it was just kind of clipped my yard and house, and then it kept going. Little did I know that was the very first tornado of a day of tornadoes in the state of Alabama that killed, Bradley, I don't remember how many people it killed, but it was a lot.
It was a lot, yeah.
And it just seemed like it never stopped. I mean, it was like every 30 minutes, every person in North Alabama was under a tornado warning, every 30 minutes.
And if you have a conversation with any claims adjuster in the state of Alabama regarding claims for more than 5 minutes, it doesn't matter the company, they all reference, April 27, 2011, it's one of those days that in terms of storms and claims and things like that, for lack of a better phrase, lives in infamy as it relates to insurance in the state of Alabama.
Absolutely. Guys, without further ado, I want to bring on our guest. We're going to talk about catastrophes. We're going to talk about managing claims during catastrophes. We're going to talk about a lot of things on this podcast, but more importantly, I want him to tell his story. So without further ado, he's originally from San Juan, Puerto Rico. He lives in St. Augustine, Florida, and he is the founder of Ariel Rivera and Associates in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and the agency owner at Deere Insurance Agency in Jacksonville, Florida. He's a veteran of 16 years in the industry, and he is married to the beautiful Lilmi, and they have one daughter named Isabel. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my profound honor today to introduce, first time on the Insurance Guys podcast, insurance agency owner, Mr. Ariel Rivera. How are you, Ariel?
I'm doing great, Scott. Bradley, how you doing, my man?
Well, thank you so much for being on this podcast.
Thank you, man. I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited about it.
We're going to change things up today. Normally, I ask you to go back in your DeLorean and talk about how you got in the insurance business. We have together, you and I, a much more compelling story that needs to be told. So we have a hurricane that completely destroys the country of Puerto Rico. You were there the night that it happened. You were in, I believe, San Juan. Is that correct?
Yep. Yes, sir. San Juan, Puerto Rico.
You had an agency there. You have an insurance agency that has policies in that country. Talk to our audience today before we get started in talking about claims and catastrophes that hopefully a lot of these agents won't ever have to deal with this, but talk to them about starting with that night, what happened, where you were, and then we'll just move into talking about the days after.
All right. Sure, man. First of all, Scott, man, what you went through with tornadoes, oh my God, I can't even imagine that. That is just brutal, horrible. Just so you know, that's one of my biggest, I would say, worst nightmares in the world, because I know how to deal with hurricanes, but I do not know how to deal with tornadoes. And there's a big difference between them, because for a tornado, you cannot get prepared. For a hurricane, you can get prepared, but for a tornado, man, what you went through, that's just crazy stuff. So, I mean, definitely you were the man at the time and at the moment, and you took care of your family. So kudos to you, brother. Kudos to you.
I appreciate that.
First of all, we had back-to-back hurricanes in 12 days. I think it was 12 or 16 days. We first had Hurricane Irma, which came in as a Category 5, but then it came through the island as a Category 1. But then 12, 16 days afterwards, we had Hurricane Maria, which was the big one, that came through the island as a Category 4. Just so you can imagine, a Category 4 hurricane, the boys that measure the wind on the, to know the wind speed and all that, the last wind speed that they got, it was like 220 miles, and they just took them off. So the hurricane was actually measured through the satellite. So, as the hurricane was coming in, obviously, we were without power, then all hell broke loose. We set up similar to what you would set up for tornadoes in terms of, you have your special secure room. So for us, it was our daughter's bathroom. We took a good big blanket. We had a toddler cot. She was 3 at the time. So we set up the toddler cot. We charged the iPad because we knew we were going to be without power. Downloaded some movies and put her, I put her my Bose headset because I didn't want her to hear the noise of the hurricane. That sound is just brutal. It's horrible. As the night went on, what happened was we had a broken window in my master bedroom. So I live on an apartment complex. So on the 3rd floor, we have the penthouse. It's a walk-up. Once the broken window on my master bedroom happened, all the water starts coming in. So now you have wind problem plus flood problem. I mean, I had to shut down that door. We all hid in the bathroom. We went to my daughter's bathroom. You can probably see a picture of that on my Facebook or something. And we just stayed there until, my wife went into the tub. My daughter was in the toddler cot, and then I was just sitting in the toilet. So basically, we had set up the bathroom with water, Tostitos, snacks, cookies, and everything just to spend the night there. So we spent a couple hours, maybe 6-8 hours. Then we had the eye of the hurricane. When we went out, obviously the apartment was completely flooded. So, we started ditching water out the door, but then it will go down the stairs. Then you got to, run down because you don't want to flood your neighbor's apartment, and then just keep taking water out. Once the eye of the hurricane is over, everything comes back again, once it turns around. And that was it, man. When it turned around, it was probably 4 or 5 in the morning. And then we spent another 6 to 8 hours of hell. It's just brutal. So, I wish nobody goes through that.
So all totaled, while you're going through the whole thing, from beginning to the eye, the back end of the hurricane, are we talking about a 12-hour event there, probably 12 hours that all this is going on?
Yep. Probably between 12 and 18 hours it was. Yeah. It was crazy.
I guess from an agency standpoint, you guys were okay. I can imagine that the next morning, you know, when it's over, sun comes out, you walk outside, and I'm assuming that you're seeing what looks like a war zone, right?
It looks like a war zone. Trees are down. I mean, light poles are down. Some buildings were down. You could barely go outside of your street. You know what I mean? Because everything, you know, all the debris was there. Once we were able to go out on the second day, the most impressive part, so Puerto Rico is an island on the Caribbean. So it's beautiful. It's full of greens and trees and all that thing that makes it visually beautiful. Everything was brown. So no leaf, no anything. So it actually looked like somebody put fire on it. Like it completely burned the whole island.
Yeah, that's the salt water is burning the trees up. Is that what's happening?
Yep. So everything, I mean, with all the salt water that came in and obviously all the flooding and the wind knocking down trees and light poles, it was like, wow. It was something you could never imagine. And being born and raised on Puerto Rico, in the island, we've been through hurricanes. But usually it's a little bit, I would not say funny is the word, but, you know, you guys can understand it. It's a little bit funny because when we get a Category 1 hurricane, we're drinking, man. I mean, free day, we're drinking.
Kind of how it is here, man. We just had a tropical storm 2 weeks ago, and
yes, you did.
Like,
yep.
I've had, you know, all my friends. It's kind of like when you're not in Alabama, like say you're traveling and you're talking to somebody you know, or maybe somebody you don't know, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I know such and such in Alabama," and they think it's a small place. It's like, I have a cousin in Huntsville. Do you know him? Like, well, that's 6.5 hours from me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's huge.
So all of my insurance agent buddies from all over the country, or not all of them, but a lot of them texted me, "Hey man, you guys doing okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm out working in the yard today. Like, no big deal, you know?" So I totally get what you're saying. Totally.
Yep, there you go. So yeah, Category 2, we get a little bit scared. Now 2 and beyond, it's like, whoa, something's going to go down. So, but we never been through a Category 4. Which was the horrible part. That was the very, very, very scary part about it. Going back to the agency, yes, I did have my agency. The roof on my agency went up. So basically the wind came through the roof. We were able to get to the agency. We already had a plan in place where I was the only one who was going to go to the agency because I did not want my team to go out, you know, and put themselves at risk. So I'm going to go look at the agency. I went over there, opened the door, everything flooded, the roof was open, everything on the floor. I mean, obviously we prepared it and set it up. We put, I don't know, trash bags, plastic bags. We tied up some stuff, but it was completely ruined. So I said, all right, so it happened. My worst nightmare. I'm not going to lie. Maybe a couple of tears through that moment, seeing your whole office, you know, basically destroyed. And now, okay, we had a plan. Let's just work through our plan. So as soon as we were able to get, because remember, there's no cell phone signal, no power, no water, no anything. Nobody can come in. Nobody can get out of the island because the airport towers one of them, actually, the hurricane knocked it down. So at that time, we started our plan and our process basically where I was going to meet up with my staff, and I will let them know, okay, so we're going to divide and conquer. So we had already set it up in a way. We went out, and one of the things I talk about when I teach disaster preparedness, we went out, and this is going to help you guys in Alabama. We went out and we bought 2 old school burner phones. The one that if you wanted to send a text message, you had to hit, 3 times the number.
Right.
And people were like, "Why would you buy that? That makes no sense." Like, dude,
Scott
like
still uses one of those.
Yeah. Why would you buy that? Well, those phones don't use data. So the moment the signal comes, a little bit of signal, the burner phones or those old school cheapy phones, or however you want to call them, they're the first one to actually get a number on. So that you're going to be able to receive or make calls because they don't use data. So if you don't use data, you're not, surfing the web or whatever. So we notified through social media to our clients, we sent an email communication saying, we got these 2 burner phones, these new phones, emergency phones. You can just call in, leave a voice message if we don't answer, and then just let us know your claim. And that way we're going to start opening claims, which work out really good. We opened probably a little bit over 1,000 claims in 30 days or something like that.
How long did it take from the time the hurricane had passed through, and then, you go look at your agency? How long did it take for those 2 burner phones to pick up a satellite signal?
Probably 7 days, somewhere around 7 days. Right after day 15 or 30th after the hurricane, it was awesome because I don't know if you ever heard of the Google balloons or whatever they call them. So Google sent to Puerto Rico, they donated these huge balloons that they put up in the sky. And these are like, let's just say, moving antennas. So to help us, since most of our, cell phone towers and antennas went down, Google sent those balloons and they strategically placed them, I think it was 4 of them around the island, so people will have some type of signal. So they can call each other, call their family members. Even though you're with your family, the island is not that big. It's probably 2 hours and a half drive from point to point. But most of us, we all have family in the States. My mom lived in the States. My sister lived in the States. When you are on the States and a hurricane goes down in Puerto Rico and they're not going to have power or cell phone signal or anything, you are probably struggling more on the States because you're so scared you don't know anything about your family. It got to a point where basically on the main highway in Puerto Rico, especially in San Juan, it has 4 or 5 lanes. 3 of those lanes, there was an area probably a mile long. That was the only area you would get cell phone signal. So it's funny because everyone, as you're driving in, you have to take the left lane. It was the only one that was moving. The rest of the lanes were all covered by cars, by people calling their families and letting them know, listen, we're fine. Even if you live in San Juan and you go to the southern part of the island, which is Ponce, and you have family down there, you cannot get there because of all the debris and trees and everything down.
Talk to us a little bit about, you mentioned the process that you had come up with. I think after the tornadoes that hit that day in Alabama, our agency kind of came up with what we call the catastrophic disaster process. Talk to us a little bit more about some of the stuff that you did to prepare for that, because you did have time. You had 4 or 5 days, I guess, where you're hearing that, hey, this is going to be bad.
We have what is called disaster plan. We have an emergency plan and a contingency plan. I recommend every agency in the United States get those plans. However works for you. It could be a 1-page disaster preparedness plan. It could be a 10-page, maybe 100 pages, whatever works for you. It's a simple plan where you're going to say, okay, if I'm in Alabama and a tornado is going to destroy my agency, I will have no phones, no computers or whatever. You can still work from home, obviously, to be there. Now, who's the first one that's going to visit the agency? Who's going to be in charge of letting the team know the agency it's done? We're going to execute our plan now, and we're going to work from home. So when we work from home, who's going to be making the calls? Who's going to be receiving the calls? Who's going to be on the street canvassing, surveying, looking at our clients' laws? We did a lot of condos and commercial property buildings in Puerto Rico. So with my producers, we split in a way that I would visit certain condos, they would visit other condos. So just to make sure when you get there, talk to somebody, whether it's a board member, security guard, anybody, just so your client knows you're there. Another cool thing with it on our plan, since we knew people were not going to be able to have signal, so we had banners created, right? Where we would put in the banners, we are in the recovery process. These are our phone numbers. If you have a claim, you can call them and just leave a message or talk to one of our team members. Now, the banners work out fine because most of the condos and communities in Puerto Rico are gated. We would place it on the exit gate. So people actually, every time you needed to leave your home to buy food or whatever, you would see our banner. That was the one. So it was it was not a selling point. It was just empathy, careness, and kindness point where we would say, this is where we are. So when you set up your agency, do what works for you. That's super important. We tell everyone, do it in a way that you feel comfortable. If you like working from home and you're already working from home, like for us, when this whole COVID-19 started, we were already set up to work from home. So it didn't make a huge difference because we learned with the hurricane to put our plan in process. What type of phone system do you have? The VoIP system. Can you do a soft phone on your laptop so you can make calls from your laptop? So there's so many technology and resources out there that you can use to service your client. It's just put it down in writing. Listen, we put down sales, goals, processes, everything related to running the agency, but we do not put down on pen and paper what we're going to do if something bad really goes on. It could be a fire, by the way. It doesn't have to be a hurricane or tornado. It could be a blizzard that just, knocked the roof on your agency. There's so many things can happen.
What I like about that too is it's so easy. Everyone's guilty, including myself, of wanting to talk about the sexy stuff, the automation, the marketing, the sales, the process. But the reason we're all doing this are claims. That's the reason we're doing this.
That's the only way we prove ourselves to our clients, is that the claim happened.
And it's scary to think about. And Scott and I have an interesting perspective, is all the agents we talk to. I mean, I guarantee you less than 10%, and this is not just podcast guests, this is everybody, less than 10% probably have a written process for claims, including myself, of what we're going to do in the event of a catastrophe. We just kind of wing it.
Yep.
Bradley, I want to jump in here and I want you to help me out with this, okay? So a couple things I've done as far as our catastrophe response team that we implement on catastrophes. The person that lives closest to that agency office is the one responsible for getting to the agency.
There you go.
If I live an hour away and we have a multi-catastrophe, multi-event catastrophe, it's going to be difficult for me to get there. Roads are probably going to be blocked. Cell phones are not going to work. I do love the burner phone idea. I'm going to take that and implement that.
There you go.
But one of the things we did, we have a tent in our Athens office because that's where the majority of our personal lines policyholders are at. Part of our disaster response is we're going to set that tent up outside. If we can use cell phones, we're going to be on cell phones because our office phones may or may not work. But the thing I want Bradley to talk about, and it's something that I got from CJ Hudson Pillar. So Ariel, you may not know this, but back 6 months ago, Nashville, Tennessee, and the surrounding areas got dominated by tornadoes one night.
Yep.
Luckily, I was not up there when that happened because I go up to Nashville pretty frequently. But a lot of CJ's people had claims involved with that tornado outbreak. And it's something that now that we've switched management systems, we're able to do in this office. And I want Bradley to expand on this because he's going to know more about it than I do. But what we have now in terms of technology in my office is, let's say that a random Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, a tornado hits an hour from here or 20 minutes from here. We can now pinpoint that location on Google Earth, Google Maps. We can go out 30 miles from that and collect those zip codes, come back into our agency management system now, and extract the policyholders that are in that zip code.
Nice.
And send them a text from our agency management system that just says, hey, we know that you just had some severe weather in your area. And in fact, we can even, if we're fast enough, we could do it on a severe weather day we could do it for all of our policyholders in a particular area, where we can send out that morning, hey, it's a severe weather day. Please remain weather aware, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But the other thing we can do is pinpoint where that happened and then send out a mass text to those people talking about, if you have a claim, if you have damage, contact us at this number. Bradley, do you want to expand on that a little bit? Because I think you probably know a little bit more about that than I do.
Yeah, so the way you do it, and I actually have spent this time pulling mine up, and this is a brilliant idea from CJ, who, if you know CJ, is has no short of brilliant ideas. But basically, you can create, it's called My Maps, and it's within Google Maps. And essentially what you can do, the way you start doing it, and I don't know if I'm sure there's a way to automate it where every time you write a property, it automatically goes on there. But what you do is you export all of your addresses in your entire book of business, and you would basically upload them to and create a My Map. And it essentially layers on top of a Google map, and it's got little flags, little pinpoints where all of your clients are. So what CJ was able to do when the tornado hit is go in, like Scott said, and pull, okay, these people, and he's in a lot of cases calling people before they've had damage saying, hey, you've got damage. And they're like, wait, what? Because it's like a secondary home or something like that. Yeah. And I'll actually share my screen with you and show you mine. I know this is no good to the listeners, but well, never mind. Johnny disabled screen sharing. If you want to see that, guys, reach out to us and I'd be happy to show you kind of what mine looks like. I'll take a picture here. So Scott and Ariel can see it. That's what mine looks like. So you're able to pull up all of your policy holders and kind of cross-reference. I think it's a great freaking tool, and to be frank, I think it's a selling point. I know CJ's done some really cool marketing videos talking about, hey, this is the extra step we take at Hunts and Pillar Insurance. We don't wait for you to call to file the claim. We call you and say, hey, do you want to file a claim? I think it's something that a lot of agents hearing about this, well, I don't need to do that. But I think it speaks volumes to the clients with how much you care.
It does. That's a great system. I never heard about it. I wish I had that back in the hurricane happened. We did that manually, actually. So we started emailing, text messaging, more text messaging and everything, because the text will go through, even though if you don't have full, data signal. So we started calling and emailing almost all of our clients, and that system would have been awesome at that time. That's definitely every agency should look into. That's for sure. Thank you, guys.
So Ariel, the problem with that system, with what Bradley and I just discussed, that's fine for a single tornado outbreak that maybe you've only got 2 or 3 tornadoes that have cut across a path through what would be a lot of your clients that you have on your book. Okay. But when you have a catastrophic event that is as big as, say, a Category 5 hurricane that may hit Mobile, every cell phone in a 300-mile radius is not going to be able to receive a text.
Yep.
Right.
Yep, that's true.
You're not going to be able, they probably get that text 6, 7, 8, 10 days after you send it, right?
No more effort than it takes to send a mass text. I still think you send it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's, like Scott said, that's a situation where you're going to have to make individual phone calls. And another tip I would give you guys with this, if you've got a storm coming, and I know in a lot of cases, we don't know what's coming, I would suggest you can download the offline version of Google Maps.
Yep.
It'll take a little bit, but I know when we went to Cuba, that's what we did, and that's how we got around. You don't want to build this great, map with all your clients pinpointed and then not be able to pull it up because there's no internet. So I would download an offline version of that and just have it at all times. And it's something, I haven't updated mine in about 6 months. So it's something I think, again, I'm sure there's a way to automate it, but it may be harder to set the automation up than it is just to, set yourself a calendar reminder to go in, pull a list and add the addresses that aren't on there.
Going back to your point, Scott, maybe because there would be no power or no signal or whatever, you cannot send the text afterwards. But if it's a named storm or a named hurricane, you can always send it beforehand. As we get prepared for the storm, blah, 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 that's coming in, I want you to know that we're here for you. Once everything is safe, which is how we do it, to go outside, we're going to be up and running, working for you. If you send it beforehand, the client's going to be like, oh, wow, they really care, which in the end, we all care.
I know I made fun of automation and marketing earlier, and I'm about to dive right into that. We do a lot of automation in my agency, always have. Even back before I owned the agency, we use a system that does text messages as well as voicemail drops. If you're not sure what a voicemail drop is, it's where you get a voicemail without the phone ringing. It's a great way to, you can do mass voicemails to clients, things like that. They think that you're calling just them when in fact you've called 300 people. I don't think there's a better mass text, voicemail drop, automation, whatever you want to call it, than, hey guys, there's a storm coming. We just wanted to check in and see if you guys needed anything, you need any sandbags. And then one after the fact that's mass sent out to all your clients. Hey, it's Bradley with Portal, just checking on you. I've always done that. I actually used to do it manually. I would literally sit there and text every single client after we had a storm and say, hey, how are you guys doing? That sort of thing.
That was me also, by the way. Sorry.
Yeah, I've got one. And that's not to say that I'm the greatest. I'm terrible in 99% of the things that I do. But I've got this one client that always gets those texts and is so appreciative of it. And in fact, I had another one. Here's an even better tip. Text the people you've quoted that you didn't write, and text the people that you used to have as clients that left you. Mm-hmm. I had a client that came back to me a couple years ago that left our agency and came back to me because he heard from me and he did not hear from his current agent, who's supposed to be one of the better agents in this area. No shade or anything like that. And he posted about it on Facebook and said, man, this guy's texted me on my birthday. He's texted me on Christmas, and he's texted me to check on me after a storm. I haven't heard from my current agent since I bought the policy.
Right.
And again, not thumping my own chest because I didn't do anything special. All I did was set an automation system up.
There you go. That's the way to do it, man.
Bradley, you're 100% right. I mean, as important as it is to reach out to your clients, Billy Wagner says, touch them 10 times a year. That's a touch.
If I could be 1/10 of what Billy Wagner is.
I know. Me too.
But I could see the value also in texting or sending out a ringless voicemail to prospects as well, because you're exactly right. There's going to be probably more than a few of those people that are going to say, wait a minute, that son of a bitch doesn't even have my insurance and he's texting me. I could see that being a tool to use in terms of prospecting as well.
As a disclaimer, don't go text 300 people that are not your clients that have not opted into texting because Bradley Flowers told you so on the Insurance Guys podcast. You will get the absolute dog crap sued out of you. There was an insurance company this week that judgment came down, I think, for $250 million because some of their agents texted people that had not opted in. It's probably the one way of marketing that you can definitely get yourself sued. And if you're not sure about that, look up TCPA.
So how do you do it then, Bradley? If you want to text those prospects, let's say a catastrophe situation or just a birthday text or ringless voicemail, how do you get around that?
Everybody that gets a quote from my agency opts into texting some way, shape, form, or the other. It may be through a forum that they fill their information out in on the website. It may be CSR asking them, hey, is it okay if we text you, that sort of thing. And then the system, when they ever say stop or stop texting me, there's certain phrases. If your system is good enough, there's certain phrases that when they text those phrases, it won't ever let you text them again. So,
we actually send them 3 ways to opt in. So we send them a text message. We send them on our form. We always ask, do you approve text messages? So if you want me to quote you, you got to fill this form and then you got to approve text message. And then the third way is through an email. Obviously, they don't always answer the email, but at least I have 2 ways that work really good to actually get them to opt in. Always ask, do you approve text messages? That will be my biggest recommendation for you guys.
And it's a subtle art because you don't want the text to seem automated. I want when that person receives that text, whether it's a follow-up text, a marketing text, a hey, how you doing text, I want them to think that I'm stopping what I'm doing and I'm texting them individually. And the way that I do that is it's our office number. And if it's not our office number, it's a local number. It's not a 5-digit number. There's no disclaimers after it that says reply, stop to MSG and you can't tell. It's not the text you've opted in at the restaurant to let you know when your table's ready, right? So there's that. But then at the same time, you also want to get the opt-in. So it's a subtle art trying to find that happy medium where they know that they've opted into something, but at the same time, they think it's you. And that's something that I think comes from trial and error. I'm not exactly sure how TCPA reads, but if they are already a client of yours, unless they try to opt out, I don't think you have to have any, hey, this is where they opted in kind of situation. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure on that, though.
It's so funny that you're bringing this up, Bradley. So with all of our new agency technology that we're implementing right now as we speak, I met yesterday with Justin Miller in my agency, who is the one that's in charge of setting up all the automations to touch clients and prospects. And I told him yesterday, I said, I have one rule that is your guiding North Star for everything you do to automate touches to clients and prospects. I don't care what you send out in the form of a birthday card, a text message, an email, whatever it is, to both clients and prospects. Do not send it out unless it's authentic.
Yeah.
If it doesn't look authentic and it doesn't look like Scott sent this to them, I want when somebody gets either a text message, a ringless voicemail, a birthday card, whatever it is, I want them to think to themselves, first thing right out of the gate, wow, that sure is nice that Scott sent that to me, and not think that, oh, well, that's just something he sent to everybody.
Well, and here's my advice to that. I agree 100%, but I also don't let that stop you from if somebody calls you out on something saying, oh yeah, that's automated.
Right.
Because it keeps you a little bit transparent. You know what I mean?
Right.
We try our best automation wise to set follow-ups. Currently building a a platform out now, or not a platform, but a campaign out now on the platform for my new guys, my new agents, that when they quote somebody, it's actually going to automatically follow up with them.
Mhm.
And what we're testing that now with certain clients, and what's happened is you have some that they've already bought and they're getting a text that says, hey, just following up on the insurance, like I just bought this from me. So that we have to get those kinks worked out, and there's a way to do that. Hey, no big deal, man. That text was actually automated.
Right.
What I'm saying is, don't be scared to say it is, but at the same time, your effort in the actual campaign, it needs to be, hey, this is Scott is personally sending that.
Right.
You know?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, I try to make everything personal. People make fun of me, even clients sometimes, because my text messages are too long. And I go like, listen, when I send you a text, I want to send you a text saying, hey, Bradley, how you doing? Hope everything is well. And then I go to the point. But I mean, I always want to wish you good because that's who I am. It might be a little bit longer than 160 letters or words or whatever, but it's who we are. So even though it goes automated, it's just how we're built.
And see, I'm the opposite. I get right to the point. Like, I've been accused before of not being very friendly, even though I'm a friendly
polite
guy. In the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., I'm on, and I'm getting right to the point. And you know, I've had some wholesale brokers before call me, and before I started Portal, back when I was full of piss and vinegar, I've had a wholesale broker call me one time and say, hey, can you do me a favor? Like, what's that? Can you please, when you get quotes back from our underwriters, reply thank you? Because they think that you're this really mean guy because you're like, here's a quote, give me that quote, you know, and you're actually really, really nice, and they need to know that. I'm like, man, I'm sorry. It's just everything's about the client. Like, it's what can I do? You know, an underwriter, at least back then to me, was just an obstacle to get to the end goal. It was just part of the process. I'm the opposite. I'm just very quick, to the point, short. Scott will tell you that too.
Hey, don't feel bad, Bradley. We've had our hands slapped over here multiple times relative to talking with a adjuster or an underwriter or a service representative about an account, and you know, having a little bit of a terse conversation where we know we're right and they're telling us something else, and then you get a sales manager calling you or texting you or something saying, hey, you got to back off the throttle a little bit here.
It's I was explaining that to and I know we're getting way off subject, but I think this is interesting. I was explaining that to one of my newer team members the other day. We had a deal, in short, probably the most pissed off I've ever been in the insurance industry ever, where we quoted a decent sized commercial account for us, presented it to the client for a risk that is this carrier's niche, presented it to the client, and sold them on two aspects that only this particular carrier had. That was the anchor of our presentation. There were no other options. We go back to the office, ask an underwriter a simple question. The underwriter, without going into detail, deliberately tried to find a way to decline this risk, even though there was, anyway, and declined it for a stupid reason. And we're on a chat. And before we were off of the chat, I had already emailed and called someone who was probably 3 or 4 in that company. And my producer's like, man, that you're going to seem like a real jerk to this underwriter. You went over his head. I'm like, I'm just trying to get my client. Like, when I'm in the mode of trying to get my client handled, I'm not worried about anything else. We are getting that client handled. We are getting the deal. We're getting this client taken care of. And that was one of 4 times that particular underwriter tried to kill that deal for 4 different reasons. I don't know why. And we actually ended up closing it yesterday.
Nice.
The reason Amazon wins is they are client first. To hell with everybody else. Client first.
Right.
Everything else will work itself out.
It's the only way we're going to win. It's the only way we're going to win as independent agents. Client first. You got to care about your client, your community, your people, your team, your family. Client first.
Dude, Ryan Hanley said one day to me, said that the most inconvenient way to buy insurance is from an independent agent. We've got to figure out a way to fix that.
Yeah.
Yep, that's true. And even our image, people think of us that when they say, oh yeah, you're here to sell me insurance. That's not how we are. That's not who we are. We sponsor little league teams. We're part of the community. We help our schools, man. We truly care about the people we serve in our community. And that image, changing that image, it's a long way, but we can do it. We can definitely do it.
Hey, Ariel, before I shut this podcast down, I had a specific question that I wanted to talk with you about that I find very interesting. And I hope the agents listening to this, the 250,000 insurance agents from around the world, you have an agency in San Juan, Puerto Rico. you have an agency, Deer Insurance Agency in Jacksonville, Florida. Talk to our agency force out there and give them some tips and tricks on how you manage those two agencies in terms of your time, your energy, your effort. Because as an agency owner, I have 3 locations, but they're all within 60 miles of each other. But how do you do that?
That's a great question. Well, first of all, this last February, I sold my Puerto Rico agency. When I started the Florida agency, the way I manage it, I travel up and down almost on a monthly basis between both agencies. The Puerto Rico agency, being a well-established agency for 15, 16 years, I had an amazing team. My biggest answer to you would be build a great team. I mean, my team was from my producers to business development, to our claims people. Everyone was amazing. So I knew my clients were getting taken care of. So I would basically travel up and down just to go to specific meetings with our large accounts, whether it's emergency room, big condos, usually $20,000, $30,000 premium and above, all the way up to, $300,000, $500,000. My team, number one, that was the first thing. The other thing I did happen that did change is, since we did a lot of commercial in Puerto Rico, I focused my Florida agency on personal lines. And it was funny because you can give me a $500,000 account on an oceanfront condo and I can write you that easily. I mean, I'm not bragging about it, but it's something I've been doing. So I know all about buybacks agreement, underwriting guidelines, how we prepare that. But then Florida, the way I set it up more for personal lines because it's very hard. Commercial takes a lot of time. So when you start doing commercial, basically it takes up most of your time. Florida is a scratch agency. We are just starting. So what I did to set up more on personal lines, I reach out to the guys that knew. So that already have done it, like Bradley, Carlos Vargas, even Matt Naioli, all of those guys. And I'm like, listen, I can write commercial, I can do that, but I want to focus Florida on personal lines. So the only guy I have not spoken to, and I wish I could speak to him sometime soon, is definitely Billy Wagner. Because the way we're setting up our agency, we did a similar thing in Puerto Rico for property managers. So we want to do the same thing we did in Florida, but, to work with realtors and loan officers. Basically, you're traveling up and down. You got a schedule. You got to run a tight schedule. If I have a meeting, if I'm doing this podcast with you guys, everything is on calendar. I use Slack. Slack has been a huge blessing for us. We use it, I don't know, maybe 5, 6 years we've been using it. So we're always communicating, even Zoom. I remember having team meetings with my team in Puerto Rico through Zoom while I was on an airport. Most of the time I'm traveling up and down, even though I sold the agency in Puerto Rico last February. The traveling I was doing up and down between Puerto Rico and Florida, I also go to Washington for PIA. I speak at different conventions or I teach different CE courses. So basically I'm going up and down most of the time. So the best way to manage it, if you're doing something as crazy as I did, which is crazy, by the way, because it takes a lot of time, you definitely got to be very strict with your calendar, very strict, and make sure you block time for everything you're doing and be on point with it. That would be my best tip or suggestion.
Tell me how you utilize Slack. I did something with the arm of
crap out of Slack.
Do what?
I love the crap out of Slack.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I've never utilized Slack before, but tell me how you guys, Bradley, you can jump in here too, because I know you can speak to this as well, but how do you guys utilize Slack to maximize, what it is and how you use it?
I use it as a messaging tool intra office. So it's only for your people, your team, your office, your staff, whatever. What it cuts down is a lot of the easy calls that take out of your time. Like, listen, a Bradley call, he has an emergency, he wants you to call him back. So when you use Slack, you're tagging people and basically you're going straight to the point. So we say Slack, it's not about opinions. Slack is not a formal email. We're using it. So right now you're doing the podcast. And let's just say one of your CSRs sends you a Slack saying, Scott, once you're off the podcast, we need you to call the office because we have this problem. Or, this person called, we got to take care of this claim. So you can open different channels and assign them. We have one channel for one producer, another channel for one producer, another channel for callbacks, another channel for agency development. So there were different things that we used it for, but it works really good, really, really good. You want to jump in, Bradley?
At its simplest form, it's an internal communication system.
Texting platform, correct?
Not well, you can have it on your phone, but it's messaging. Right. I don't know how Nationwide was, but I know a lot of captive companies have their Skype or whatever where you can chat with it's kind of the same thing, right? And so we initially got it for that. It's got an open API and it's got Zapier connection. I mean, you can connect it with anything. We have it connected with our management system. A couple of things we're doing with it. And there's some agents out there. I saw one the other day posted. He probably had like 200 different channels, maybe one for each carrier, and built automations so that if anything happens with said carrier in the management system, it notifies us in Slack. Because as insurance agents, I mean, I don't know about you, Scott and Ariel, but I probably get no short of 250 emails a day.
Yeah.
95% of them either are spam or I didn't need to get that email and I've had to forward it out to the person that it belonged to. So it's kind of another layer of more important stuff. But a couple of things that we have in there, we've got a channel that's just like our general like team chat, instead of having like a team group text, team chat for things going on. We've got one for we call it our hot leads channel, which is any lead that comes in from any online source goes into the hot leads channel. It notifies everybody. And then the person goes under there and claims it, just replies to the text that comes in and claims it. I got one.
That's some Game of Thrones shit right there.
I've got
first person to the Slack lead gets it. Yep. I love it.
Yep. On that note, I am a huge anti-proponent of a round robin or rotation system. I've been in that situation at my prior company. I don't think a rotation is the best way to pass business amongst producers because this is just one example. Let's say Scott's at lunch. Lead comes in, it's Scott's turn. Ariel's the one that took the lead in, but it's Scott's turn. So now Ariel has to do one of two things. He's got to wait until Scott gets back to lunch, and especially if it's personal lines, in that 1 hour, that customer's definitely gotten some more quotes 9 times out of 10. Therefore, we've given a bad customer experience to that client. Right. Or Ariel takes the lead, which creates long-term animosity with Scott.
Yep.
Is bad for your culture. That's what happens.
Let me just deep dive a little bit on that, Bradley, for you, because I know you won't. You're too nice to do this. But one thing I've seen and one thing that Bradley has experienced is if you've got an agency with multiple agents inside the agency, from a politics standpoint of who likes who the best, you can also run into situations where Karen, the person that took the phone call, likes Bradley more than she likes Scott. So inevitably, Bradley's getting more leads than Scott gets. I know you know what I'm talking about, Bradley.
That's back to my spy days where we've caught people doing that. That happens. So what we do in our agency is the lead goes to it outside of if it was referred. We had one a second ago where somebody else was working on it. We found out that person actually was referred to another. So we had to handle that. That's fine. Outside of that, if it's just a general lead that comes into the agency, which more times than not, that's what it is with us, the person that is most equipped to handle that lead handles that lead.
Yeah.
Who can get the best experience? Who can claim it and work on it right now? The person that's sitting on their butt just waiting on stuff to come in, it's not that person, right? It may be somebody that's a little busier than that person, but it's not swamped. So that's how we handle that. Anyway, we have hot leads for that. We've got another one for office supplies. I'm not the best when it comes to knowing what we need in the office.
That was me too.
We have an office supplies channel. I'm like, hey guys, if we're low on something or you need something to better perform your job, put a message in the office supplies channel. Once a month, I'm going to go to Sam's. I'm going to order supplies, and that's the list I'm going to go off of. So if we're out of printer ink, we're out of printer ink. If we're out of toilet paper, hey, we're getting low on toilet paper, that sort of thing. So we have that. My favorite channel is the one that's that I just actually got a notification on, that's sales party. Anytime there's a sale made in our office, when the clients move to sold in the CRM, immediately everybody in the office gets a notification that says, hey, Natasha just sold a policy to such and such Brown. I'm looking at this right now, such and such Brown. And then it says, whoop, whoop, this much in premium. This was the carrier and this was the lead source. So the person, it's a robot that sends that. The name is Portal Combat, as we're in combat. So that's our sales party. We have another one for service requests. Any service requests that come into the VA are in there. And the next thing that I'm about to do with Slack, this may be a huge mistake or this may be one of the best things I've ever done, is I get inundated with emails. And I'm too OCD to ignore emails till the end of the day. I will drown in emails, replying and deciphering. And a lot of it, when I started the agency, the first 2 months, it was just me before I hired somebody. A lot of our carrier service stuff and all that are set up to come to my email. A lot of my day is just going through email and saying, okay, this goes to her, this goes to him. I need to reply to this one, that sort of thing. So I'm actually literally tomorrow interviewing for an additional virtual assistant that's going to act as basically my personal assistant. And one of their main jobs is going to be to manage my email. We're going to have 3 levels. Okay. And it's going to take us some time to work this out to figure out what's what. Level 1 is going to be basic stuff that he or she can reply to, right? As Bradley's assistant. Scott emailing me and saying, hey, what time can you do lunch on Thursday? That kind of stuff, right? Level 2 is going to be emails that can be replied to at the end of the day. And they're going to put those in a folder that are emails that reply to at the end of the day, or stuff that needs to be, if this email is actually for John, let's send it to John. Level 1 is going to be emails that I need to handle right now. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to build a zap between Gmail, G Suite, which is what we use for our email, and Slack. They're going to star, because, if y'all use Gmail, you can star in Gmail. When she stars it, it's going to send it to a special channel in Slack. And I can reply, and then they go back and this is what he says.
Awesome.
So that's one way that I'm going to use Slack
to
make. No, dude, just be completely honest, man. I came up with that all on my own. I was like, what can I do to free up my time?
Listen,
and
I feel your pain, because I'm in the same boat. I get 250 emails a day. 100 of them are just stuff that I just delete.
Yep.
50 of them are stuff I can reply to later.
Yep.
And then there's 20 or 30 of them that I probably need to jump on pretty quick.
Yep. It may, to some people, it may be like, well, that's a little excessive. Like, you're taking yourself too seriously. But I just think about, like, what could I get done? Like, I got home from work 2 days ago and I was just so pissed off. And Laura was like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I had 4 things I really had to get done today that were on the calendar, and I could not get to them because I just kept getting bombarded with having to handle problems.
Right.
I get so pissed. I'm just like you, man. I get so pissed when that happens.
I know. It's frustrating. I mean, I got something right now I've got to work on for David Carruthers that I hadn't started, and I was supposed to be done with it yesterday. So anyway, that's one thing I'm doing. And the other thing that assistant's going to do is they are going to see new business from the time it's written to issuance. So we're going to have sort of a back-end type CRM thing. Okay, did we get the application? Do we have the payment? Is the client satisfied? There's going to be a checklist. And they're just going to the 2 things they're just going to hone in on are my email and following up, because we don't want to drop any balls on new business. We've had some cases recently because we write so much new business that maybe an app has fallen through the cracks and nothing bad's happened, but the client gets a notice cancellation and we have to fix it, right? I don't want that to happen. So that VA is just going to track that. So, but anyway, we use Slack for a ton. CJ Huntenspiller and I are working on a project right now. I turned CJ on to Slack. He didn't like it at first. And the other day on this project, he said, if we can't use Slack on it, I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to do the project. I would encourage anybody, if they're looking at an internal communication system, to sort of layer on top of emails to look at that. Another thing we did, I just got a message 5 minutes ago from one of my team members that said, hey, I need you to call Miss Such and Such today. So my system is, if somebody calls for me, unless it's urgent, they say Bradley returns calls between 4 and 5 p.m. I don't want my day to be reactionary. Bradley's going to call you back between 4 and 5. So what it does, when I hit the save button in Slack, so on that individual message, I hit save. When I hit that, it actually sends a calendar invite into my calendar at 4 o'clock. That way at 4, I can look and I got all my, okay, this is, so we use it for a ton, and it's only becoming bigger. I apologize for taking all the time, but
no, man. Great insight.
Yeah,
Slack is definitely
stuff.
awesome. I encourage everyone to use it.
So Ariel, I'm going to shut this thing down. I want to tell you how blessed and honored I am to have you on the show today. I think this has been a great episode. Guys, listen to me. I know I understand, especially if you're one of the 250,000 insurance agents that are in middle America, you may think that you are never going to get wet on this ride. One of my buddies said that to me right before we went down the log ride at Six Flags over Georgia one time. He looked at me and he said, I never get wet on these rides. We got off the ride and he literally looked like he had just gotten out of the shower with all his clothes on. So I know that all you agents think that it's never going to happen to you. You're never going to have a catastrophic event. I will tell you right now, having experienced that you need to get your staff together. You need to reverse engineer. You know, when you think of catastrophe, think of the fact that cell phones aren't going to work. Power is going to be off. Probably not going to have a lot of the internet's probably not going to work for up to 7 to 14 days. You need to create a catastrophic event plan, have that in place for the event of something happening, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when that's going to happen. So
100%.
Rewards come from action, not discussion, guys. Get your ass out from behind that desk today. Go out into the big bad world, create relationships. First rule of leadership, if you're going to be a great leader, it's all about other people. It's never about you. And that is the basis behind all leadership. Get your ass out there today, meet people, love them up, go make money for your family, for your wife, for your husband and your kids and your parents that are struggling out there today. Go help them by making money and selling insurance. Write good business for the companies that you represent and write good business for the agencies that you represent. I love you, Bradley Flowers.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Ariel.
Hey, great job today, Bradley. Ariel, I love you too. If you ever need me.
I love you, Scott, man. I love your humbleness, your energy. I love your kindness. I love you too, Bradley, man. You guys are awesome. Keep doing what you're doing.
Do me a favor, Bradley, and shoot me Ariel's number on my cell phone so I'll have it, okay?
Will do.
Guys.
Send me a text message.
Okay.
Make sure Ariel opts in first.
I'm going to sue you. No, I'm just kidding.
Guys, you are listening to the Insurance Guys podcast, and we'll see you back here real soon. Take care. Thanks for listening to the Insurance Guys podcast. If you need to know more about me or you need to get in touch with Scott, you can always reach me at theinsuranceguyonline.com or email me at iprotectins@gmail.com. And if you need to get in touch with Mr. Bradley Flowers, go to bradleyflowersinsurance.com or email him at bradley@saralandinsurance.com. Guys, we love you. Thank you so much for listening. We look forward to being with you again real soon on the next episode of The Insurance Guys. Take care.